It says we're live. Are we live? Are we
I
live?
think we are. I
I
think we
think we're
are.
live.
But it's funny because this thing fools me a lot. So it fools me all the time. What's been going on, bro?
Just hanging out, living a good life, trying to stick to New Year's resolutions and all that good stuff. How about you?
A month in, all the resolutions are gone. So I think I'm suffering like everybody else now. It's cold. It's cold in Texas, so it's probably cold where you're at because you're all the way up there in the Northeast.
It is cold. As a matter of fact, in my office right now, it is a balmy uh, thermometers on the bottom, 58 degrees.
Yeah.
I've got a space heater under my buttocks, under the chair, hopefully warming me up for the episode.
You gotta mention that it's Fahrenheit, not Celsius. They're like, it's 58 degrees, he's about to die.
Well, it's 58 degrees Celsius. It'd be all over. I mean, like 40 degrees Celsius is 110 or something.
Mm-hmm,
Ridiculous number. So if I have to say Fahrenheit, well,
for the international audience, it's 50 degrees in there. Oh my God. So I think we have a lot of stories to cover today. And
we do. Today and tomorrow. We're probably going to be rolling in two. So because we're going to be doing this over 2 days, you know what? I'm going to mention it early. Might be a good idea to hit that little button on the bottom if you like this kind of thing and want to catch it again tomorrow and be reminded as we come out. Consider subscribing. So that's my first request of the day. I'm sure I'll keep asking as we go.
Oh yeah. Well, let's start off first, rolling it up to. So we're going to start with Epstein. Let's start with Epstein. So for those of you who don't know, which I'm assuming everybody understands, Epstein, the 3 million docs were dropped for Epstein. After the docs were dropped, come to find out, something like over 500 of the victims' names were exposed, and there were even some pictures of victims who were not fully dressed, and things of the nature that were out there. The victims' attorneys contacted the Justice Department, was like, "Yo, you redacted all the names of the pedos, but you didn't redact all the names of the victims." It almost seems backwards here. So they had to pull down that stuff, and then they're redacting. And another thing with the redactions, they are not consistent at all. And like, there were 2 emails that they seemed to put up the same email, and in one of those emails they redacted like half the stuff, and then the next email, the same email, it was totally unredacted. So it makes you think, like, why were they redacting this? Like, it's crazy, the redactions. I don't know, why they were doing the redactions in such a crazy way, but it doesn't seem like there's any purpose or reason to the redaction.
I have a feeling there's multiple people involved in a left hand, right hand, not knowing what each other's doing. Also, I don't know if this is the Epstein Files. I think it was. There were some people who were doing, quote, redactions, and what they were doing is essentially using the highlight tool in a PDF and just making it black. So instead of like yellow highlight in a sentence, it was black highlighting. So somebody would go behind, copy the entire documents, drop it in Notepad, and the words are there. It's magic. So there's proper redactions to maybe some training is in order. That would probably be a good idea for consistency's sake.
Well, somebody's already checked, starting it up already. Anyone still supporting Trump is just like him. Ooh, so I'm assuming.
Oh, that's Linda. She's an old hand at that. I mean, Linda is like somebody you can just count on. Sort of like the weather going from the west to the east. If it's against Trump, Linda's there. I mean, she's holding the banner and all aboard.
Well, I would say this though: Trump is not doing himself any freaking favors. Like, right? It's just like he's not. All these, they literally ran on release the Epstein Files. He hired all the people who said release the Epstein Files. They get the Epstein Files, and then it's story after story, lie after lie. Like, how many lies can you catch Pam Bondi? It's all on my desk. It's about to be released. It's not going to be released. Everything. Now all of a sudden we got 5 million more documents. I'm talking about, if this is not a cover up, then they are bad at just telling the truth. It's like, how bad could it be? Matter of fact, I'll even challenge people in the audience. If this was Joe Biden, would you believe this was a cover up? I would say yes. I think it is. I don't know what they're covering up for. I don't know why they're covering up, but it seems like this is a massive cover-up. You know,
Well, it's a giant problem. It's been handled poorly since the get-go. I mean, it started with the binders in February.
oh yeah,
And then Pam Bondi handing out to influencers who are caught, holding up binders, which somebody pointed out most of them aren't really commenting a whole lot right now.
and don't because they told us that's everything, right? There's everything, but
they've said it's everything multiple times.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's 5 million more documents. Like that's either it's a real understatement or they were lying when they said this is everything.
Yeah, I don't know, but let's go ahead. We'll look at one particular case who's in there, and people have acknowledged there's a relationship, and that's the illustrious Bill Gates and what was going on with him.
Yeah, so Bill Gates, just so everybody understands, Bill Gates has denied for years. He says he did have a relationship with Epstein, but that relationship was he was running the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They were trying to get rich, and Epstein had a whole bunch of connections when it came to the people who they wanted to give money to, other billionaires. So his argument, or Bill Gates was saying that because Epstein had all the connections, he was using Epstein as kind of like this jump off tool where he can get money for the foundation. This guy, can you make the introduction, that type of thing. So it's philanthropic and professional. But obviously we're going to hear some stuff in this particular Epstein drop that challenges that particular fact. So here's Voidzilla.
Hold on. Also, not only, Bill is making that claim, right? But a very significant point is he was doing a lot of this post 2008, and 2008 is a significant date and time because that is when Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of many of his crimes. So he was a convict, and the guy who has been the richest man in the world in and out, multiple times over the past, decades, probably could afford to vet who he is talking to for the foundation. And he continued talking to the guy again post conviction. That's very important. I'm not saying anything else at this point, but it was post conviction. So he was communicating and working with a known offender.
Yes. This wasn't like it was a secret. But let's play Voidzilla, and he's going to explain to us exactly how Bill Gates is in the file.
All of this came out. Melinda Gates said it was part of the direct cause for the divorce. She said she met Epstein and said he was evil.
He was evil personified.
So you have to understand, this is like Bill Gates' kryptonite. He's one of the richest men on the planet. He's got this huge philanthropy arm. But this relationship with Epstein has been a huge problem for him. And Epstein appears to have known that because in 2013, Bill Gates appears to be distancing himself from Jeffrey Epstein. And Epstein seems to have a problem with that. He says, I assume the dedication to our relation went both ways. Larry has now asked me to recommit to a confidentiality agreement. Basically, he's got to shut up about his relationship with Bill Gates. And this is where the blackmail starts. And it comes in the form of like, if I were you, I would do X if I were the type of guy that you should be.
But now I want to make it very clear.
Yeah.
Before we get here, Epstein didn't send this email to Bill Gates.
Exactly.
He drafted this email and sent it to himself.
And that's what I wanted to point out. And by the way, CoffeeZilla, that's Voidzilla, is his other channel. That's who we're talking about here, who's talking. Does a good job, but he just went right, he went right into the.
Yeah, he did say it.
As long as he said it earlier. Yeah, but a lot of people are going right into the meat of the email and not starting off with the fact that, it was sent to himself. Now, there is a case to be made, theoretically. I don't know if you know one of the ways that people will send messages to each other in espionage. It's an old school trick. But what that is you have an email account, like a Gmail account or something. Mm-hmm. And then you type an email and you leave it in drafts, and the other person has the login credentials, and they will log in at their convenience, and they will find the email in the draft or sent to oneself or whatever it is. And then that prevents the communication from going back and forth between the people. I'm not saying this is the case, but that is one possibility of how Epstein could have been passing messages on the down low that had a lot of bad information, because if he did send it to Bill Gates, it would be logged in different servers on the path, and this would definitely be potentially trackable later on.
He says, in that regard, I suggest I buy you the house that you had your heart set on. In addition to 5 years of severance, we'll buy you out of the investment contract we agreed upon, 30 to 40% of an $100 million partnership for $30 million in today's terms. That's what I would have done had I been in your shoes. Then he lays out what he has.
Well, so now we get,
Expression.
yeah, the expression is crazy, but we do have, it looks like we do have blackmail. That sounds like blackmail, right? If I were you, I would honor our agreement, buy that house, and
it does, assuming that Bill Gates got it. We've got the problem of, and again, I think Bill Gates is guilty as hell. So don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to really address the evidence directly, like you lawyers do. Yes, that's a lot of blackmail wording and language, but if the recipient doesn't receive it, then there's, what is that?
It's intent to blackmail.
Yeah.
So you can have an uncompleted crime where if you attempt, it's like trying to attempt to kill someone, and you don't have to kill them to commit the crime. So I think this is strong evidence of his commitment to maybe want to blackmail. Now, if that doesn't mean the information is true or not, but just the implication could be enough to say, hey, I'll tell people this, even being true or not, and then you'll be destroyed. So that's also part of blackmail. A lot of people think that it has to be true, but it doesn't. And I think if you're in a relationship with a convicted offender of children, then that puts this at another level. You know what I'm saying?
It does, but we have to address, no matter what, if Bill Gates received it, it would be one level. If he never received it or anything, that's another level.
Yeah, definitely. Because he wouldn't know about it.
On Bill Gates, or what he says he has. Quote, to add insult to injury, you subsequently, with tears in your eyes, implore me to delete the emails I had regarding your STD. Your request that I provide you antibiotics that you could surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your
Now, I'm going to say this. The reason that this part is a little weird to me, because you do have the richest man in the world. He's got doctors, whatever. The doctors come to him, right? It's called concierge medicine. It's where the doctors, you don't go to the doctor's office. The doctor's office comes to you.
Sure.
Now, I'm assuming someone at that level wouldn't have issues getting antibiotics, wouldn't have issues with paying a doctor. Hey, just tell my wife she's got a vitamin deficiency. She got to take these pills, right? Like, there's so many easy ways for him to do it. Why is he talking to Epstein to say, I need you to get me the antibiotics? He's the richest man in the world. He can't get antibiotics. He can't get a doctor to give him a prescription. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it depends on how tied up they were. Like, he would have to shop around for another doctor potentially. Remember, it was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, so she was running it with him, and I don't know how intertwined their arrangements were. Like, if the same doctor was treating them both, well, that might be kind of a problem. Like, hey, doc, next time you see Melinda, can you do this or that? So he may not be a very skilled felon. And sadly, the person who could answer this immediately is Melinda. If she did, in fact, come down with something that she needed antibiotics for, it would confirm whether something happened or not. But at this point, we actually don't even know if he did give her one. Apparently he had one, according to this Epstein email.
Yeah. This is insane. It's completely insane. It's like basically laying out in text form, I would give me millions of dollars, and I can't believe you're asking me to delete the message where you were going to give STD medication to your wife without her knowledge. I mean, it's complete. It's crazy. It's just completely obvious what he's doing here. It's just a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Here's what you should do. But now that coming out after Epstein's death, this looks really bad for Gates.
Now, obviously, it does look really bad for Gates. Sure. And Gates now had to respond to this because it looks like, hey, Epstein wrote this to himself. Now, I need everybody to understand, this could be totally BS. Epstein could have wrote this to himself.
Yes.
As just to put more pressure on Gates, who may have been distancing. So just this email, a lot of people are going to see.
Well,
this
he
email
was.
and
He
think
did
it's
literally
yeah,
say, "Oh, I see you're distancing. That wouldn't be a good idea." Is the tone of the
exactly.
email. So he could have been warming up. This could have been a draft, and he was like, how am I going to deal with it?" Apparently, later on, though, Bill Gates did give money to MIT, I guess, on Epstein's behalf or something. So there is a question
There,
about that donation. But anyway, continue.
let's go to. So here's Bill Gates' response to all this. So you guys have heard the thing. So here's Bill Gates.
Well, is this a response to this, or is this when he got caught being tied to Epstein a few years back?
This is the most recent one. This is him responding 13 hours ago to the release about the wife's issues about the STD and stuff. So this is
interesting. For his association with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, saying he regrets every minute they spent together.
I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
Gates said he never witnessed or took part in any inappropriate behavior. He insists his relationship with Epstein was focused on raising money for global health.
Every minute I spent with him, I regret and I apologize that I did that.
Tonight, his ex-wife, Melinda French Gates, says this all brings back memories of, quote, very, very painful times in her marriage.
Whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be.
Can I point out, and I just got to say it, I mean, this really sucks so hard from Linda Gates. I mean, she is a victim in this, in my opinion. It's like she's married to a guy, he's a rich guy, whatever else, and he's doing all this crap. And now she's being drug into it about possible STDs and this and that. I mean, you kind of have to feel for her, because I feel like, we should be sympathetic to her as a true victim in the encounter.
Yeah, but I would say she's a victim if what they're saying is true, right? Because relationships end all the time. But if it was
happening while they were together and she's being drug into it, it's his actions that are dragging her into it.
Yeah, well, I think the reason why I'm pushing back on the word victim is because their marriage could have, he could have been banging somebody else, a waitress or whatever. It could have, his relationship with Epstein could be what he's saying, right? It could be nothing, but Epstein was trying to get him. So that's what I'm saying. She may not be a victim in that particular sense of the word, but I think, her marriage just could have dissolved. So if he did give her an STD and all that stuff is true, then yes, no, I think that is appropriate. So I'm just hedging it because I don't want to make it seem like we're saying he did this thing and then, where the evidence isn't clear.
Well, I guess I would put it this way, Nate. Let's just do a hypothetical. If a husband goes out and kills some people, and he's still married, he's bringing shame upon that family. He's bringing things on that family, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm going. And I consider the murderer's family to also be victims, just like his victims. They are also victims because of an action that person took. I think Bill Gates's actions have brought shame to their relationship and family, and I kind of feel sorry for her. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I do. I definitely feel sorry because I don't think it's her fault that the relationship ended. I think it's Bill Gates, and I think it's Bill Gates' relationship with Epstein. But that's just my theory. But again, we'll see because more stuff is going to be coming out.
Away from all the muck.
The Justice Department's release of more than 3 million pages of documents making headlines around the world. In London tonight, new questions for the royal family as these pictures emerge of the former Prince Andrew. Now,
you know what?
He's doing CPR. I'm sure it's perfectly normal.
But somebody was saying that. Somebody's defending him, saying that this was like a CPR thing, and it's not, fully clothed. It seems like
it actually does look like CPR. I'm gonna because I took CPR training. I don't know about you.
It does look like CPR. You're because what they tell you to do is bend over and tap, but they usually tell you to tap on the shoulders. Are you okay? But they're in another country, so they may do it differently.
Over a young woman on the floor.
Good morning, Your Majesty. Will the royal family help the Epstein investigation?
So that's with that. So Bill Gates. So do you think with the Bill Gates scenario? Do you think he was being? It looks like to me Epstein obviously wanted to blackmail him.
Yes,
but I don't know if the information that Epstein was putting forth that he emailed to himself is true. And I think that's kind of where we're at with this, right?
They had a relationship. That's proven. And as I said, Bill Gates had a relationship with Epstein post-conviction. That is proven. I think there's enough that's proven that Bill Gates should have problems anyway. I don't know the STDs. I'm not going to go all the way there yet, because we have a problem of a potential blackmail, but not a proven blackmail, because if he intended to blackmail, okay, but unless you show that he did blackmail, like, I think that would substantiate, if Bill Gates, came out and said, hey, I was blackmailed by this guy, and, Epstein was alive and there's a prosecution, he would say, yeah, look at this. He even drafted that. And that would support the claim. But we have a problem here where we have an email that didn't get sent to the guy that technically didn't come across. So I don't know. I don't know if it's just noise, but I do think that there's enough problems already that Bill Gates should be suffering, period, just because of his relationship, his carelessness, and his actions in dealing with a known convicted perpetrator. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and I think that makes sense. So it's, Bill Gates, I'll say this, for all the people that have been mentioned in the Epstein files, I just personally, there's some of those emails where I think it's clear what they were doing. But those emails were surreptitiously redacted, so you can't see who exactly was saying those things, like about the young girls and all that stuff. But the emails, but I don't, there's no damning evidence that about, let's say, like Trump or Elon or even Bill Gates that'll make me say this is the smoking gun. There's a lot of smoke, but but there's nothing that definitively says this actually happened. Like a lot of the Trump stuff is even unverified claims. Like a lot of people
looks awful.
Yeah. They're like,
it looks awful. It's
but
not.
You have people randomly call in, though. No, but you have people like literally randomly calling in after he became president. Oh, President Trump did this. It's just like,
Well, there was somebody who put a letter out that implied that Jeffrey Epstein was running them when Donald Trump was 21 and Epstein was 14. Like, if you work the dates out, because I think it's like tied into 1966 or something. So there is a lot of noise in there. Absolutely. And when you say release everything, okay, Nate, you're a cop, right? You guys, or the police or law enforcement or investigators, whatever, they have to log everything, correct? Whether it's real or false or anything else, they have to log it all. Is that true?
Well, that's what you generally do. You log all the information you get in, and you what you do is, in your investigatory notes, you'll say, hey, interviewed this witness, not credible, interviewed this witness, not credible. You kind of go through that process, and you say, this is all the information I got, because you just don't know. But I think in this case, they logged all the information, and then you have to go back and actually do the work on following up and a lot of these things. And a lot of these tips and stuff were followed up on, but nothing came of them. So just because just because people are saying that in a file doesn't mean that this is actually what happened. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying it did or didn't. I'm just saying right. You just need more to corroborate it.
Well, also in terms of the follow-up, and I'm not trying to defend the FBI, but it is a factor. When you have 3 million things out there, that's a lot of stuff. And is it possible too that they were going through tip after tip after tip? I mean, this takes time. It takes personnel. It takes man hours to do this. And then he's dead. So what's there to follow up on? He's dead. Well, yeah, I wonder if some of that, became a factor where it's like, okay, well, what now?
I think we have to be. I think we have to be like reasonable with this. Is that even though Epstein's dead, you have a lot of people who are allegedly have done these things on American soil with underage people.
Sure.
And there was one email with a 9-year-old, for instance, being mentioned. So if that occurs, you got victims. You got victims saying this happened to us when we were underage. Yes. These people are the ones who did it to us. That enough is probable cause to at least investigate, right? And they're saying this. They're saying either they already investigated and found nothing, and so then it's kind of like, well, if the only person that was doing, because that's what the government's selling, the only person that was doing these things to these young girls were Epstein and Maxwell.
Well, that's a lot. Her whole trial was a sketchy thing on that. You know that because remember, there were only 4 witnesses in her trial. And it was like, you mean after all these people, you could only come up with 4 witnesses. And the coincidental, I think it was 4, but anyway, the coincidental thing was that those witnesses all said it was her and him by themselves. There was big questions about, well, what about witnesses with him and somebody else, or him and her and somebody else? Somehow they couldn't find any witnesses to do that in her trial. So the whole thing stank to high heaven for a long time.
And let's not forget the 4 people whose names were mentioned in Epstein's plea agreement. There were 4 names mentioned in the plea agreement, 4 names. And those 4 names, clearly, this one was recruiting. This one's this. All the victims were saying, yeah, this woman recruited us. This woman got us from Mar-a-Lago, so forth. Those are easy. I think those are, and if you can get Maxwell, then those other 4 people who are named in the plea agreement as co-conspirators, they should be on trial too. There's a lot going on, but I think the government's lying to us, and I think that this goes a lot deeper than most of us want to acknowledge. And I think, you know, it's sad, but I really don't think we're really going to get any place with this. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a document dump. It's a whole bunch of, you know, and it's smart. Just put out a whole bunch of trash.
They should have done that to begin with, though.
Yeah,
if they did this back in February, it would have been a whole lot better. It's the slow walking, the stumbling, the missing footage, that he really did it to himself. My stance is I really just am befuddled in how they handle it, because you would agree, Nate, right? If they did this like in February, you know, within 1 month of his taking office and just dumped it all out, kind of like they did with a lot of the JFK files, a lot of the RFK, they just dumped it and just said, here it is, dig away. Half of this is BS, by the way, but it's on you. Figure it out. I fulfilled my promise in campaign. That would have been, far better. But this, protectionism and everything else that's going on is rough. I mean, it looks so ugly. And as it's gone on, there is no winning with this damn thing. There's no winning. It's just going to be a stain forever. 100 years from now, we're going to be still talking about this crap. I'm sure of that. Future generations. This is like, the teapot scandal under Harding, or, whatever. This is going to be one of those, the big Epstein scandal under Trump. I'm sure of that.
Before we move on to the next one, I'll say this. The redactions make no sense. The hiding of the pedos, but releasing the victims' information makes no sense. All of this screams cover up. And eventually, when the new administration, because all these documents are still going to be there, when the new administration gets in there and somebody says, let's just release everything, I think we're going to see the true nature of this and then be all outraged, and that's going to change a lot of people's opinions on things. But we got to wait to that point. But now,
well, I want to hear from all of you, especially those who are, watching this on replay, whatever, please comment below. What do you think? What do you think about what's going down? Do we keep digging into this forever? Is anything more going to come out, or is it just going to start fading into the sunset? Okay, let's jump to the next story.
All right, so we've been talking about ICE and the ICE shootings, because we had the Renee Good shooting, then we had the Peretti shooting, then we had all that stuff happening up in Minnesota. So Minnesota, right? Going crazy. The Somalis.
By the way, can I add to not only that, right? But where is Luigi Mangioni's victim from?
Minnesota, right?
Yeah, there's so much with Minnesota in the past, couple of years. It's just ridiculous. That state and everything, it's bonkers.
But one thing that I think we wanted to discuss is that, so recently, they've changed up like the ICE tactics and stuff like that, but people are still following them around. So there
has arrived.
So yes, so now you have ICE officers who are Black, and they are now being so the anti-ICE.
Well, Nate, hold on. Not now. I mean, there always have been ICE officers who are Black, and a lot of ICE are Latinos as well. I think I think there's a higher percentage of ICE and Border Patrol agents who are Latinos than there is in population overall. I think there's a higher representation. Just
I'm sorry, I didn't want to make it seem like he's the first one, but he's like the ICE. He's a Black ICE, or this one's a Black ICE officer. Yes. So in this particular instance, remember we have the ICE officers who are doing their jobs, and we have these extremely radical left-wingers. Now, generally, if you're talking about left-wing politics, they're, the anti-racist, don't use racial slurs, if a man dresses as a woman, call him or her, that type of thing, right? Latinx. So you just wouldn't suspect that these left-wing radicals would start hurling racial insults at people who they see are minorities, right? That just is not supposedly off-brand for them. But
well,
we're about
hold on,
see.
Nate. I think you would expect that. How many times have you been called a C asterisk in and other terms? So you're kind of familiar.
But that's because I'm against that. Well, it depends on what I've said. Like, for instance, when I said Renee Goodwood's shooting was justified, I'm a COON. And when I say the other ones, then I'm, so it all depends on your opinion on what they want to label you as. But I want to show the video because remember, this is anti-ICE protesters following ICE, confronting a black ICE officer, and listen to the language they start using immediately. So let me put this up.
Family should be ripped apart. That's not our energy. We should rip people apart from their families. Are you a man? Wow, is that a question? Wow. Okay. How do you feel about ripping people from their families?
Now, you see this woman blocking his door?
Yes.
That's a crime, right? That's a crime. Yes. Why is she blocking his door? He's trying to get into the vehicle to leave. Now, if he uses some type of force or something, then it's a problem. Like, please, miss, why are you blocking me? Blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But the media is not covering this at all. We were actually looking for the story to see if any of but none of the news media is covering this at all. But yeah, so she's physically blocking him.
Does that feel good?
It was in the background.
Does that feel good?
That's twice. 3 times.
So
3 times the N-word hard R was used. 3 times.
Now, the funny part about this is that these people are saying what they're doing is racist, but are employing the KKK racist strategy to fight it, right? They're fighting racism with more racism. You couldn't ask for a bigger dummy moment if possible. But again, and as you can see, you won't see this on because the late night shows should cover this fun. Like, oh my God, like this is funny. This is the irony that they've been able to point to. But since it's not going with the political linear that they want to go with, essentially you won't see this unless you watch channels like ours.
Can I also point out that the subtitles somehow forgot to get it too? If you go back and look at the subtitles, you'll notice that you've got to be listening, but if you look at the subtitles, never happened.
Yep.
I need to move. House nigga working for the fucking KKK. What the fuck's wrong with you?
KKK.
Why are you calling a woman a man? I mean, what kind of a guy does that?
Fucking house nigga, bitch.
You see, they try to open up the door
4 times, by the way. Can I point out right after? Why are you calling a woman a man, and then the 4th use of the hard R? So I'm like, is this not in the same encounter? We're going to language police on one side because he got confused. He said, sir, or whatever. He said, are you a woman? I think he asked it, but whatever it was. But then meanwhile, they're just racist slur, raceless slur. It's sick.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I love stories like this because it really shows the media bias, right? If this was just and people just think about this. If these were reversed, right? If it was the ICE officer calling the protesters the N-word, for instance, that would be on all national news. We'd be seeing this every second, right? Oh, this is what happened. This is ICE. They're racist. But now it's flipped where the other side is saying it, and you can't see it at all. Matter of fact, they're mad at him because there was, I believe, a transgendered woman. He was like, are you a man? Yes. And you see how upset they got. N-word. So it's wild because they believe they have the moral high ground, I think. And this shows you that they really don't have the moral high ground. It's funny because a lot of times with Black conservatives, they'll say, hey, at the end of the day, you're just another N-word. You may agree with their policies, but you're just another N-word. And as you now see with the left, at the end of the day, if you don't agree with them, guess what? You're just another N-word too. It's just they're saying it and getting away with it, while the other side can say it and not get away with it. I'm for consistency across the board. No matter who says
don't
it,
use the
it should
damn
be
word.
wrong. Yeah.
Just don't use the word. And I don't care if you're black, you shouldn't use the word. That's my opinion.
Black,
I know
white,
that other people won't agree, and I know in private that's not the case, but I won't even use it in private. I won't use it in any company. I literally will not use that word, period.
Oh yeah.
And Nate, you can confirm it. And we've had how many conversations have I ever uttered the word, even in context of saying like a book title or something?
Yes. And it's funny because I'm one of those people who personally believe that there should be no racially censored words in terms of, if I'm black, I can say these words. If you're white, you can say these words. I reject all of that. I think words are words and anybody can say them. We have a freedom of speech here in the United States. But on the other side of this whole mantra, if we accept this division based on race, because that's essentially what it is. If you're this race, you can say these words. I reject that wholeheartedly. But there seems to be a lot of people in America who accept that proposition. And I think that's wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so we can actually move to our next story if you want, which is the detransitioner who got millions and millions of dollars from New York. Hold on, let me pull up that story.
By the way, what are you in the chat? I see that we're putting the chat on the window. I've never done that before. Do you all like that, or don't you like that, having the chat flowing on the screen there? Just let us know. And Sherry, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I try to avoid the C word too, except the C word is a weird word because in England it's completely different. I mean, it's thrown about like
I got some at the door. Give me
like you dudes, and things like that. So that one I think is such a wild one, and always, makes me cringe. But in a different country, it's like I don't know about Australia and other countries like that, but in England, it's like you see words, whatever. Definitely a crazy combination. Now this story, and I may repeat it when Nate gets back, but we actually talked about it earlier. This is an interesting story because a lot of us have been against the idea of people being able to have what they call gender affirming care on children. Obviously, if a kid's not able to get a tattoo, then how could they have gender affirming surgery? That just doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. But I will say, and Nate, you may remember this, one of the people in the legal community, Barnes, kind of shocked me a while back, but he was discussing that he didn't think that legislation was the answer for banning gender affirming care or things like that. He was saying, let liability take place to where if a kid or somebody who's not an adult receive the surgery and they have the ability to sue over the fact, the problem will straighten itself out. Well, it turns out that Barnes may in fact be correct, and this latest case has really moved the Overton window on this particular issue. Wouldn't you agree, Nate?
I agree 1,000%. I think the issue that's come down to is that, and again, I'm going to say it for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. I disagree wholeheartedly with transitioning children. I just don't think it's medically necessary, and I think at a point, children don't understand their own, and their how they don't understand gender and stuff like as an adult. Now, if you're an adult, you do what you want. I don't care. You have surgery, do whatever you want. But doing it before puberty, I think it leads to a lot of problems. And they've shown, like, people who transition before puberty, you have a lot of people who commit suicide and things of that nature because they're upset at what's happening. And I don't think it's what's it, optional surgery, right? What do they call it? Not non-invasive. With the surgeries that are optional, where you don't have to do it.
Yeah, like a facelift and things.
But I do think this is doing real harm, and
elective,
and I don't think and I think people, like, don't get me wrong, I understand the trans community and their issues or how they say they claim their issues to be, but I don't think the answer is just transitioning children. I don't think that's the answer to anything. And by doing that, you're actually hurting people. You know, let's here's the video.
Well, hold on. There's some history, Nate, that supports that completely. Just culturally speaking, when you grew up, right? Mm-hmm. There were girls who would run faster, beat up boys, and things like that, and they were called tomboys. It is literally a term in the culture for girls who kind of ran with the boys and they did things with the boys. It's very, very common, especially when you're talking about little kids, right? Mm-hmm. And then typically what happens is all of a sudden puberty hits, boom, and these tomboys become girly girls. You know, it's a very natural progression. And the really annoying part is it's almost like I think people intervene and they go, and I'm speaking especially from the girl side, but they go, oh my gosh, you know, this girl thinks she's a boy, so we should just take it the whole way, rather than just saying, hey, it's a stage and kids go through stages. There's also, you know, boys who prefer playing with dolls, but then they don't necessarily, but then as puberty hits or whatever, or as they grow up, they grow out of this stuff. It's phases. It's proven. There's, thousands of years of this happening. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're 1,000% right. I agree with you 100%. Here's the story.
$2 million.
Here's a story from the Washington Examiner. So we want to just let people understand what happened in this story.
A New York jury just handed a $2 million judgment to a detransitioner who says her doctors rushed her into gender surgery as a teen. Fox Varian, now 22, got $1.6 million for the pain from her breast removal at 16, plus $400,000 for future medical bills. She's part of a growing wave of detransitioners suing doctors for pushing transition procedures they later regretted.
So this case, I think, got this far is because the doctors and the psychologists pushed this on this family, right? It was like, oh, do this, so to make you feel better. It was kind of like, you have gender dysphoria. Let's cut off your breasts, make you look more like a man, and that will solve all your problems. And then, like you just said, a couple of years later, she's like, what the hell happened? I've changed my mind. I want to be a woman, and now all the crap just comes down, and
it's irreversible. You can't, you have a double mastectomy, they're gone. Yeah, you can say, well, just go get implants. Well, it's not the same.
No,
it's they're disfigured.
Yes, and I also think 2 million is too low. I think they should have hit them with a lot more than 2
well
million.
I think they see a lot more coming along. Come on, this just opened the floodgates. You think that's the only case out there?
No. I think there are a lot more, but I do think I would have hit them harder than 2 million. But she's got it. So
Dr. Kurt Michelli from Do No Harm calls it a breakthrough, saying it's the first time a jury's validated the real harm to minors from these surgeries. Clinicians failed terribly, he told the Washington Examiner. Another detransitioner, Chloe Cole, who's fighting her own lawsuit, says every doctor doing mastectomies on healthy teens should be scared. Varian testified she felt instant regret, nerve pain, and lifelong shame from being disfigured. Michelli urges the medical system to support detransitioners through the physical and emotional scars. This comes after the Supreme Court upheld bans on minor trans surgeries in Tennessee and over 20 states last June. But in places like New York and California, doctors face new liability risks for these safe haven procedures.
So just so people understand, states like, there's certain states who just banned it, right? Hey, we're not going to do this. This is ridiculous. But now you got states that said you could come here and do it. So people who are going there now have this out where it's like, okay, if you do this to my child and the child doesn't like it and later in life, we can come back and hit you with multi-million-dollar settlements. And that's the thing, like Eric was saying earlier, that can stop this, that'll really stop it in all particular areas, right?
Yes, because I mean, I'm not an expert in it, but I'm willing to bet that doctors who are performing this will not be able to get malpractice insurance.
Yes.
Because there's a definitive risk, there is a precedent, and there's potentially more precedent. So they're not going to be covered. So how are they going to be able to go about this? Either they go underground and break the law, that's a big problem, or they just have to stop. And it appears that the stopping is occurring because the professional organizations or associations have changed their verbiage now. That has just come out. I don't know if you have that, but I think it's the AMA and the American Psychiatry have now changed the guidelines. It's funny how this works. It's like, obviously it wasn't science. I think everybody would agree that this wasn't science, and their reaction proves it. You put a liability there, and suddenly, well, maybe it's not that important.
Yeah, I think it was good to be on that woke train to say, hey, we're gonna do this, but then on the back end, it's like, now we got to pay for it. Okay, we're not going to do it anymore, right?
Skin in the game.
So now I gotta ask, since for a few years now we've been saying ninjas, when does that word get canceled? LOL, by the way. I think it all depends, because there's you could say a whole bunch of these words by saying something else, but I personally, I just don't use any of those words. I think there's over a million words in the English language, and if somebody does, like if somebody says the N-word, it doesn't offend me. I don't really care, right? It's just kind of like, okay, that, because I think it shows more about them than it does about me, right? If you're using that type of language, it's more of a reflection on you. But I do think I think you go down a very, very dangerous road when you start policing people's speech based on the color of their skin. I just think that's too dangerous, and I reject that in every form. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I like the N-word or I like people saying I don't like black, white. I don't care who says it, but I think policing it based on race is ridiculous, and it's dangerous. I remember there was news that the state attorney general Bonita sued a hospital for not providing gender affirming care. I think I remember one of those, but again, if the state forces you to do something, like says you have to do this, that's different than you offering the service. Because in this particular case, they offered this young girl this service and then convinced her family that she needed it, right? They convinced her family that, hey, you need this surgery because for psychological purposes, and that's not what that's not what happened. She didn't need the surgery, and now they got to pay millions of dollars to, and it's obviously their insurance, their malpractice insurance is paying, which is going to kill their practice, because a $2 million settlement, now you got more money, but it's probably going to come out of this.
Oh, most likely. But by the way, this is just one particular case of it, and I'd have to confirm it further, but Jordan Peterson has also complained about this, and it was Canadian policy. I'm not saying it's a U.S. policy, but he was speaking of Canadian policy, that as a psychologist, he was not allowed to guide people with gender dysphoria into saying, this is a phase or whatever. He had to always affirm the other identity, and that was by law in Canada. And I think is potentially some states might have something similar. So I have a feeling that this case you're going to see, especially with the guidance coming from the professional organizations, is going to change some of the requirements, and maybe psychologists, counselors, etc., will have the ability to really explore the situation more roundly with their patients and look at all directions. And I think this is the right thing to do. I remember many years ago now, or whatever, it used to be somebody could not just get an operation to have a quote sex change operation. They would have to literally take like 2 years to do it, and they had to have like a lot of psychiatrist visits, things like that. They had to live like the other side for a certain amount of time. And so it was not wasn't a rapid procedure. It was something that was kind of really long, drawn out, well thought out, or I don't know if it's well thought out, but it wasn't just a, hey, I want to do this. Oh, here, let me give you a prescription.
Yeah. Well, I think now, unfortunately, when it comes to the transgender movement, it's not about the facts of reality, right? Because no matter how many facts you lay out, they're going to deny all the facts. Men are stronger. Here's the biology. They deny all the facts, and it's about how you feel. But now, as you can see, how you feel, that can cost you big bucks. And hopefully this will stop. This will at least have people pause and say, okay, what can we do for it from here? But now, do you want to go to the next story about the NYPD that happened in New York?
Absolutely. One last note on this, by the way, and I think Nate and I both agree on this 100%. If you are over 18 years old and you wish to do that, then that's on you. We have no problems whatsoever with adults doing whatever with themselves. That's fine. And I just want to make that really, really clear. The big argument we are making is that people who are not adults should not have this done unless there's some weird circumstance, like hermaphrodite or something like that. Then
something like that's different,
so I will say, okay, there's those. Let's go right to the edge case and say, okay, except for the edge cases, possibly those can be visited on a case by case basis.
But they had the video of the youngest transgender was like 8 or 9 years old. They transitioned there 8. Like really, like at that age. That person, it's more, I think, the parents who say, oh, we really wanted a girl versus a boy, and then transitions their kid. I think that's horrible. But again,
well, this is a good question. Do I endorse lobotomies for adults as well? Well, if somebody wants to get a lobotomy for themselves, I don't think it's a good idea. But I don't know.
I think there's a difference between cosmetic surgery, and things that. So, in other words, like breast.
That's not cosmetic, though.
That's more cosmetic. I don't think that's like the surgeries that hurt you. And I'm assuming they may consider this gender affirming surgery to be more cosmetic in terms.
I disagree though, because the plumbing actually gets changed, if you will.
Yeah.
That's a little deeper than a nose lift.
Yeah, or a breast augmentation.
Yeah.
No, I'm agreeing with you. But I think that's the way most people would consider it to be, more or less a plastic surgery versus something, because it's elective. It's also elective, right? It's not like you have to do it. So, well, here is a story. Well, this actually is the wrong story, but that's an interesting story too. So, right now, for those of you who don't know, NYC. So before we even get into the details, we're going to let you guys watch what happens, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Are we going to get pinged by YouTube for this?
No. This is
okay, cool.
Sure. No, because they edited it all out.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Put the knife down. Put the knife down.
Chilling new video of the moment the NYPD says a young man charged at officers with a knife. Police opened fire. The 22-year-old survived, but remains in the hospital.
The case reigniting the debate over the response to someone having a mental episode.
Anthony Carlo with the video and what the mayor is saying.
How you doing? Are you cold? You cold?
Yes. Body-worn camera depicts NYPD officers being let into the home after the young man's parents called 911 about their son being in emotional distress. What begins as a standard response takes a turbulent turn as soon as the young man sees the police.
Put the knife down!
Now, at this point in time, this is obviously a deadly situation, right? You've been called, crazy guy. He sees you, grabs a knife, and starts coming at you. So I'm assuming we're all, if you were the cop here, you would be afraid for your own personal safety, right? Somebody's coming at you with a knife.
And also, can we point out too, not only is it a deadly situation, those who give the old saw of never bring a knife to a gunfight, well, that one's been proven out many times that at a close range, a knife is potentially more dangerous than a damn gun. So it is extremely dangerous with a perpetrator having a knife.
Yeah. It's being close range knives are more effective than guns.
A family member tries to stop Jabez Chakraborty from advancing toward the retreating officer with a kitchen knife.
Put the knife down.
Now, as you see, the officer goes out of the thing, closes the door to keep the guy inside the other room, right? This cop obviously doesn't want to shoot this guy.
Put the knife down. Put the knife down.
We briefly pause the video here to avoid showing the young man being shot.
The armed male was able to push through the closed door and continue to advance toward officers with the kitchen knife in hand. At this point, officers discharged their weapon at the armed male.
This is the kitchen knife. Police.
All right.
Okay, now I want to put it out to the audience while everybody's watching. This looks like a clean shoot to me.
Yeah,
the officer was under threat. He did try to de-escalate. He tried to even get the door in between him and the other person. He did not seem to rush, but the individual didn't seem to want to be stopped.
Yes, I don't know if you get a cleaner shoot than this. I don't know how it would be even cleaner, right? They did everything possible to stop this guy from attacking them. Now, let's say these weren't cops; these were social workers. How do you think this would have ended?
They'd be running and calling the police, most likely, if he's chasing him with a knife. What would you do? I don't know what social workers are going to do. Are you going to talk it out of his hands? Please now, put it down. Or I'll say please again.
Well, you see, he wasn't putting it down with cops pointing guns at him, screaming, put the knife down, put the knife down.
Well, I'll ask again, Nate.
It's now, I think this is obviously justified shooting, but the mayor of New York City has a different. He doesn't think this wasn't justified.
He's going to bring some warmth to it.
What he's going to do is, instead of backing his police officers, he's going to go to the hospital and visit the knife wielding man and take pity on him. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand he was shot and all that stuff, but.
Oh, by the way, I have pity for the guy. If he was having a mental breakdown, I do feel sorry for him, but he's still a danger.
But now, what does that send to your officers too? That they were like, if you're running a police department and your officers have gone through this extremely traumatic experience, because shooting somebody is extremely traumatic. I would be visiting my officers and saying, "Hey guys, you got a good job." And don't get me wrong, the guy, I feel sorry for him, but unfortunately, FOFA. But in this particular case, my officers, they didn't go there. They tried to do everything, and I'd be praising the officers. This is what we want. But the mayor of New York City, who is, is a little anti-police. This is what he wants to do.
He say the 22-year-old was armed with on the morning of January 26th. But as Mayor Mamdani pointed out today, the encounter is more complex than what's on video.
How is it more complex than what you see on video?
He's trying to back in a lot of history and whatever else, which is completely irrelevant. The officer has no clue about the individual's history. It probably was a mental breakdown. Doesn't matter. Officer has this moment in time that he has to react to, and either he defends himself or he potentially dies, or even she dies too, by the way. We don't know if he wouldn't have turned on his mother. Why did the parents call the police, right? Did they not call the police saying, hey, we got a problem here. This person's dangerous. At this moment, he could be an absolute sweetheart. He could have been off his med. There could be a million reasons that normally this is maybe the best guy in the world. But in this particular moment in time, I don't think anything else really matters.
But maybe the mayor is going to tell us what more we're not seeing than a crazed man grabbing a knife and lunging at police. Maybe he's going to tell us there's more to this than that.
Jabez has lived with schizophrenia for many years, and this situation underscores just how urgently we need a different and more effective mental health response system that will be safer for New Yorkers who struggle with mental health concerns, for their families, and for police officers. Jabez needs mental health treatment, not criminal prosecution.
This is now Exhibit A in the mayor's push to create.
I'm going to throw something at you. I agree he needs mental health treatment. I would argue that perhaps this is somebody who should not be out. Maybe this is somebody who should be in a hospital or in a mental facility. Maybe he is not equipped to deal with the public. And a lot of people don't want to address that. They're going, oh, well, we can't just, lock people up for no reason. Well, maybe this is an individual who should be locked up. Maybe if he was in a controlled medical environment, he could have his medication and things like that are necessary for him at a good level. But I bet you Mamdani is not into a state hospital. I wonder if he's going to support that. How about a state hospital? How about a facility for this person to be in so everybody is safe, his parents and the police?
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. But I also, what the mayor is saying is legally correct, but I think fundamentally flawed, if I can say that. Because yes, if someone is suffering from a psychiatric break, generally we don't criminally hold them liable, right? It's usually, they used to call it the insanity defense, but they call it something different now. So under in that principle, yes, he may not be criminally charged. Like, he may not be criminally charged for that because he was obviously having some psychiatric issues, right? So they wouldn't charge him with attacking the police. But what they would do is you would lock that person up in a facility, because obviously that person is a danger to not only themselves, but other people, particularly law enforcement, and get it that way. But the issue that I think you run the road is that what would you do? Because if you're sending in social workers, they're going into this environment too. It's not like just not in the same environment. Now, if they're making the argument that the social workers wouldn't have been attacked, maybe they were in different clothing or something like that. But that's not in every situation, because whoever comes through that door, if that guy still grabs that gun and lunges at these people, you've just now put those social workers at risk, right? So you've now just made them victims and trying to. So I don't think there's an easy way to do it. I understand what the mayor wants to do. He wants to try to see if you can get them services before they get to this part. But in this situation, I don't think there's anything anyone could have done other than what the officers actually did, based on the situation that was presented to them. If that makes sense. I
agree, and I could point out the social worker argument that's being made. His own family is who called for help. Nobody knows him better, probably, in the world than his own family. So if his own family is essentially signaling that things are too far out of control, how is a social worker going to, who is a stranger to him, doesn't necessarily know all of his, situation and conditions, how are they necessarily going to respond any better either?
I forget I just don't see it. Unless they're going to go in there and get killed, they're going to take a knife wound for the cause.
Department of Community Safety shifting many crisis calls away from the police and toward mental health workers instead.
As I've said, when there is a violent situation, such as with a weapon, NYPD will be on the scene.
If you're going to send only medical professionals there, understand that it's a changing dynamic. Quickly, they could pick up a weapon and charge at them. What are they going to do then?
And that's the problem, right?
Hostages.
You can go to a call, and it's not the call starts off of, hey, we just need some assistance for something minor. And then you get there and it becomes something totally different. We see that all the time. And that's the problem with only sending medical professionals there, is because that dynamic can instantly change dramatically. And I think the mayor is, and this is what happened even with the deaths for the snowfall, right? I think he has this idealism that, hey, we're going to do this in this particular way, right? We're going to help these people, but not understanding the reality of it. So for those of you who don't know what happened with the snowstorm, they used to, before a big cold spout of snowstorm comes, they used to have the police, along with DHS and social workers, go to all the homeless encampments and break up the homeless encampments. So what they did was give them 24 hours notice. They go by, like, let's say the cold snap is coming in 2 days. They'll go 24 hours before and go to all these homeless encampments and say, here, we're giving you letters. You got to move because the snowstorm is coming in. And if you stay here, you can freeze to death.
They give them a ride too, right? When they
say, first,
get in and we'll take you to the shelter, but you can't stay here.
So the first day they give them notice, because they give them notice that, hey, you got to move for this. So that's the first day. So then by giving them that notice, the second day they come with the trucks and all that stuff, and then they come with the van. Hey, now you have to move. Here's a van. We'll take you to the places you need to go. And most of those people will stay maybe for a night or 2 nights before they're back on the street, right? So because they don't like to go to the shelter system. So what the mayor says, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to let people just stay on the streets, blah, 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 and it is what it is. Now, so many people have died. So I think like we're up to like 16 or 17 people who have died. So people are like, hey, well, only 17 people have died.
Only
New York has 12 inches of snow once every couple of years, right? And generally in those snowstorms, you may have 1, possibly 2 people die, but now you're having 16. And even the politician in New York said we've not had this many snow-related deaths since I can remember, in the generations. So we're not talking about there are only 17 people dying with 8.5 million people in the city. We're talking about something like 7 to 8 times as many people dying from weather-related causes than normally does. So that's the issue. Oops, let me play this clip. Oops. Let me finish the end of this.
It's a heavily criticized proposal, and there are still many questions about what it would look like. The mayor says that's all the focus of internal conversations in developing this different approach. The family of the young man who survived says they called 911 for medical attention, and instead their son was shot in front of them. Mike, Sade.
Now, that framing is so dishonest. Like, that framing is so dishonest, what he just said. The family said it, but he was like, we called him for help and they shot him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not what that's what happens if you're trying to be dishonest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We called for help, he attacked them with the knife and they shot him. They
missed that middle part. They just kind of, what? Too many words, Nate. Doesn't fit on a bumper sticker. So this will fit on a bumper sticker. We called him and he killed him. Oh, that works great. Anyway.
Well, what they're trying to do is trying to set up some type of lawsuit or something like that, where
sure.
we could sue later because even the mayor's saying this is wrong. That's
there will be a lawsuit, I'm sure.
I'm assuming the mayor will pay it. But it's like I feel for those cops, because those cops obviously didn't go there to pull their weapon. They were presented with a serious threat, going behind the door, pushing the door closed. They did, to me, it seems like they did everything possible to stop this guy from harming them. And he was just intent on attacking the cops, and he got shot. Now, the mayor going, what do you feel about the mayor going to actually go to visit that guy in prison and not the cops?
It's sickening. And I'd love to see the head count on the cops and how many people have pulled their retirement papers, etc. I mean, if you were a cop and you were a cop before, Nate, would you not be looking for a job somewhere else if you could? Now, I understand not everybody can just move, but if I was a cop there, I would be sitting there putting out my resume saying, okay, where can I go? Because this attitude and this love over people who are potentially threatening me, it is only logical, in my opinion, to get the F out of there. If you're going to live at risk, then got to go.
Some of you, I see some of you in the chat ask for the warmth of collectivism, so I'll play that beginning of that. Now, for those of you who know, the warmth of collectivism is essentially, that's the communist cheering thing, right? Because in capitalist societies, it's more individual. You have an individual right to freedom of speech. You have an individual right to the Second Amendment. So we deal with more of individual rights and the collective good. Where in communism, they deal with the collective, the collective rights, and the individual rights have to essentially acquiesce to the collective good. Where in America, the individual rights are protected.
Yes.
But in furtherance, so the collective good cannot overrun your freedom of speech or your personal freedoms. But on the opposite end, collectively, we do things together to move things forward. So this is Mandami's warmth of collectivism. So essentially, he's promoting communism, communism at his inauguration speech. So here it is.
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
Just a short time ago, Mayor Mamdani announced the deaths of 10 people found out in the cold.
The warmth of collectivism.
Well, 3 more people are dead in this ongoing cold weather. A blast across the tri-state, frigid temperatures now linked to more than a dozen deaths. The total's 13 people lost since last weekend's storm and subsequent freezing weather.
The warmth of collectivism.
The death toll from this dangerous cold has now increased to 16. At least 13 people have died from hypothermia.
Tonight, there are calls now for the mayor to do more to get the homeless off the streets and find better housing for them.
The warmth of collectivism.
So that's the warmth of collectivism. The mayor wants, and don't get me wrong, I do understand, new guy coming in, you want to, but this is what I keep saying. The practical applications of some of these policies just don't work, right?
It's not just work, Nate. People die. You can't just say, oh, this is a neat thing to experiment with, or no, people die from these policies. It's not like a basic policy like, oh, we're going to require an extra license for something. No, you make these mistakes and there are dead people. It is the height of irresponsibility, and I don't think it should be downplayed.
Well, it's going to be super cold this weekend, so we're going to see. Now, it's funny because I love the way things are starting to occur. So before, they were forcing people into shelters. So Mandami said, we're not going to force people into shelters. But now, all of a sudden, we're forcing people into shelters because they don't want to go. So he's doing it with social workers, but he's essentially doing the same exact thing, except he's just not using the police. He's trying to use social workers. So we'll see how it goes, because after all these deaths, now they sent out an army of social workers to essentially forcibly remove people off the streets. Now, what they're saying is that we're only forcing people off the streets in the most extreme situation. Well, I think if you have a storm coming or you have cold weather coming and people are saying, I'm going to sleep on the street and die because and possibly freeze to death, that would let you know, well, this person's not thinking clearly, and we need to force this person off the street. So he's doing the same thing, but he's just lying to the people. And
he's trying to save face. He's trying to save face, but I'm glad he's doing it. So I'm gonna. Yes, he's playing verbal games to cover his own ass, but because it's life or death, I will shut up and accept the fact. As long as people are going to live, good. Let them save face. These people will live.
Amen to that. Well, that is the show for the gate today, guys. We are so appreciative that everybody came by. Thank you for all the super chats that came in, too. We really appreciate it. And the last one says, the climate change of collectivism. It's interesting because it's shocking that I think maybe 10 years ago, you wouldn't have heard someone just blatantly, espouse these communist views, but it's now the mayor of New York City, and it looks like it's going to be a horror show because he wants to raise taxes, he wants to do all this other stuff, and they got a $12 billion budget. Why do you think? And I want to ask this: why do you think that the people on the left thinks that, like, they almost have no financial concept of financial responsibility? It's kind of like we'll spend millions and millions of dollars, and like, where's this money coming from? They think there's like this endless pit of money. Like, why do you think that's the case? Like this guy, he thinks it's in this pot of money. We'll just keep taxing to death, right? If you're, just so people understand, in New York, if you're making, I think, over $500,000, something like 51% of your money goes to taxes, right? And that's both state and local tax, state, local, and feds. All together, 51% of your income is going to the government. So, if you take about that 6 months of the year, you're not working for yourself. You're working to pay the government taxes. And he wants to raise that. That, I think, is it's like, what are you doing?
I think it's a genuine lack of comprehension, some of it, and a factor, how do I put it? As long as he sees there are people out there who have a really nice car, or can buy really nice clothes, or there are really rich people out there, as long as there's some people out there who are rich, then technically there's more money to get from the people. I think that's literally the mindset when you get to the left. Like, if everybody is living in threadbare clothing and in a hovel and there's nothing else, then maybe then, but I think it's just a total class divide. Hey, there's rich people, let's tax them. By the way, the worst part of it is so hypocritical. He is a rich kid. This is a trust fund baby. If you've ever seen one, his mother is a major player in Hollywood. Money coming out her eyeballs, and it's hilarious because rich. I mean, he's totally of a rich family. His father is a professor at Columbia that's spouting the same bullshit that he is about communists. But mama is super rich, and that's part of where he got a lot of the money to campaign on is Hollywood money. So that is, I don't know, it's just a complete, utter disconnect.
His mom is actually in Epstein Files, though, right? She's in Epstein Files, no?
I'm not going to say yes or no. There's a lot of stuff floating around, and there are generated photos supposedly with him as a baby and Epstein.
It was like there was a party for a thing. I saw it. It was like she's mentioned, but it wasn't like anything with the craziness. It was kind of like there was an event, and they were coordinating with Epstein, and his mom was in. But that shows you because Epstein only dealt with the top of the top and
money,
and then that shows you that she had money. Isn't that the responsibility that comes with freedom? My ideal plan would be opening up temporary shelters and encouraging homeless to use them. Yes, but I think the issue here is there's a difference between encouraging somebody to use them and forcing somebody into them. So on a regular day where it's like, maybe 40, 50 degrees outside, it's a little cold, it's not life-threatening cold, then this works, right? Let's try to convince you to get in the shelter. Let's try to do this. But when you have a day that it's going to be cold enough to freeze people to death outside, as we saw in New York, then I think that changes the dynamic a little bit, because now leaving that person there is you're leaving them there to die.
It's like the guy with the knife. Sometimes people need that nudge. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like they're not going to do it on their own. They've already shown that, and it's easier to ask forgiveness and permission. We put you in the shelter. I know you're mad at me, but you're alive tomorrow.
Yes. And that's what's been happening all these. That's why you didn't have all these deaths. But now the option is, well, we're going to give them their personal freedom to die. It's like, okay, but at that point, if someone is, I don't want to say the S word, but if someone is wanting self-deletion and stuff, I don't think there's any rational person would say, we're going to let them do that. We're going to let them do this thing that's obviously dangerous and it can lead to their deaths. We're going to do something to help prevent them from that, right? We save people from themselves all the time. And I think in this situation, if this is happening, that's essentially what the city was doing. They were saving these people from themselves. And Mandami is doing this now, except he's just not using police. He's using social workers. And they have forced people in the shelters who are outside to say, hey, we're not going in the shelter. We're going to stay sleep outside. He's been doing that. So I think we have to understand your personal freedom goes a long way. But when you start putting yourself and other people in danger, then you're not thinking rationally and reasonably enough where we can let you continue to make those decisions for yourself. And I think that's just black on the law.
I agree.
Spent years around leftists and liberals, and they all believe people with money have gained it through ill means. Therefore, it doesn't matter. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And he got 8-to-1 matched funds from public finance elections. Yeah, that's New York. But New York does that because the New York City market for elections, it's so expensive to be put on TV in New York. It's not like if you're in a small town. Being on TV in New York, it's like one ad in New York could be someone else's budget in Iowa for their entire campaign. So that's the reason why New York does matching funds, where if you get enough support, they'll say, okay, we'll help you at least be able to advertise in this market. And obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff. Eric Adams, and a lot of people, I think Bloomberg was the only one who didn't take the matching funds. Because he was a billionaire, he was able to pay out of pocket. But with that being said, we hope you guys love these stories because we are about to get out of here. Eric, do you have any last words about the warmth? No stories from before.
No last words here, but I just kind of want to put out some things that Nate and I are talking about a little bit. Let us know if you want us to do any more reactions. Like we were talking about that particular case with the guy at the knife and stuff, but there's a lot of footage out there, and there's a lot of cases out there, police, body cam footage, or whatever. Is that something that you would like Nate and I to potentially react to? Please let us know in the comments below. We would appreciate it. We're just trying to get a pulse from it. And then those of you who are saying, hey, whoa, why isn't this a panel? Well, this is kind of how this channel is shifting. The channel is a partnership between Nate and myself. it traditionally has had a legal panel on Fridays, which is tomorrow, by the way, and the invite has gone out to lawyers to have a full panel tomorrow. But the core of the channel is Nate and myself. And the reason for this, it's not just I want to spend time with Nate, which I do, and I love hanging out with Nate, and it's cool to be hanging out with my friend here. But I did not have many episodes of Laid Back Law because it was getting to be more and more difficult to have consistently appearing lawyers. They have jobs, they've got things to do. There's a lot of billing. So by doing this, Nate and I are the core. We're going to pretty much always be here unless something comes up, then it may be one or the other, running it. But it's Nate and I, and with the panel, we bring in more people to add more information. So anybody who's just curious about what's going on, Fridays is definitely set to be a panel. But if nobody shows up, it's going to be Nate and me.
Yeah. We're definitely going to be here. I got breaking news here.
Oh.
The Today Show at NBC's contacted me and says they want to interview me. So
Well,
I called them back. Yeah, I don't know what for, but yeah, they've contacted me and my agent and said,
Timothy Hinyard, Dalton, ding, 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 ding. I bet you.
I don't know,
because it's not going to be Samantha Guthrie. You haven't covered that.
I haven't covered that at all, but I don't know. I don't know.
I
So
bet you it's Hinyard.
It might be. Well, we will see. So I'll update you guys on the channel. But yeah, so I got to call them and find out what the hell's going on. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So listen, thank you everybody for joining us. Let us know if you like the content. And like tomorrow, we have some of our stories already set for tomorrow, like this one, which I think is going to be a very interesting story. So this is the story of the Uber driver who went to pick up a package and was killed by this guy. By this old man. And the reason why he killed him because someone called this guy and said, hey, we got your granddaughter or child hostage.
Oh wow.
And we're gonna send somebody to go pick the person up, right? Pick up the cash. So when this woman who didn't know, she's called and goes into the house to pick up the cash, and then he shoots her dead. So he went on trial, and tomorrow we'll talk about what happened to the trial, how he was found guilty, and what's happened. So we got all that. But let me get out of here because I gotta make these call back and find out what the hell NBC wants, and I'll let you. And we'll definitely be talking about it tomorrow. So with that being said, for Eric, I will see you guys tomorrow on Laid Back Law.
All right, you're in my courtroom now, Buster. And let me tell you, there's so many of you here that are downright guilty of not subscribing to Laid Back Law, yet watching full-blown episodes. Why don't you get your life together and just hit that button already? We all know you need it.